Hey there, this is Erica from Ever Educating, and this channel is teaching tips, tools, ideas, and resources for new college instructors. In today's video, I wanted to go over the 5 elements to include in a discussion forum prompt, as well as some design ideas for how to design a discussion forum. So first we'll dive into the 5 elements that I think that every discussion forum prompt should include. And so of course, to begin, it's the prompt itself. What exactly do you want them to do in this discussion forum? Are they answering a question? Are they going to read something and then respond and reflect on it? So the prompt itself, of course, is needed in a discussion forum. But then there's other things that I think can really be helpful for your students as well. So the next one would be a minimum and maximum word count. So depending on your preference, maybe you just have a minimum of 250 words for your post. But you might have some really wordy students and you're doing a lot of discussion posts, so you might want to say and a maximum of 400 words, right? So that you don't get like 700 word responses from 30 students every single time you do a discussion post every week. So you might want to do a maximum 2. Now, the third thing to consider as well is, do you require citations in your response? So do they have to cite an academic article? Do they cite 2? Do they cite only academic articles or journals or books, or can they cite anything that's credible? So having that requirement of citation would be a good thing to include in the prompt as well. Now, alongside that, of course, you want to consider, is just the prompt response required or replies to other students? And so in that case, you want to give information. You're required to reply to 1 peer or 2 peers. And in that case, you might have as well, and your reply should be at least maybe 100 words. So giving that minimum as well for the reply. And then finally, of course, is the deadline. And the only reason I mention this, it's an obvious one, but if you are doing the replies, you might have different deadlines for them. So maybe you post by Wednesday, your initial post, and reply by Friday. So that way you can kind of ensure that at least most of the students will have the initial post on time, and it gives students a couple days to reply. Because they might be like waiting and waiting and waiting for anybody else to post before replying to get that requirement out of the way. But if it's all due the same day, that can be very hard. So I do recommend having at least a day between the deadline for the initial response and any replies that you're requiring of your students. So those are things to consider in the actual, like what to include in the prompt itself, that kind of information. But let's also discuss a few design types for discussions as well. And so one approach, of course, is just to have, here's the prompt, everybody answer it, right? So one prompt that everybody answers is, of course, the simplest form. But then you can get a bit more complicated. So you might have, you know what, maybe students wouldn't be interested in this one topic. I'm going to give them 2 options, and they can have some agency in choosing which they prefer to answer. So you could make very clear, pick one of the 2 prompts below and answer it in the reply. And so you can list both of those prompts. Now in this case, you might want to consider, do you want them all to just create a new discussion post and reply to 1 or 2? Or do you want to create, hey, here's a little forum for those of you answering question 1, and here's a forum for those of you answering question 2. Just reply to the post I created. So in that way, you see on one page all the students who replied to question 1, and then on a separate one, all the ones who replied to question 2. That can make it easier for you, but also for your students who are replying, because they might want to be like, okay, well, I only talked about this prompt. I want to answer or reply to other students who did this. Is that clear in the titles of the student post? Maybe not. But if they know, okay, well, this is the original one that everybody replied in response to question 1, which is what I did, I just click there and I'll see the other replies and reply to those replies, right? If that makes sense. So that's something to consider how you want to design if you're giving them options. In a similar vein, you might decide to do a group discussion forum. And so in this case, you might have, okay, well, we're going to have 5 groups of 3 doing this discussion forum. And so each group is going to answer the same prompt, but there's 3 elements to this prompt. So you're going to decide as a team who covers element 1, who covers element 2, who covers element 3, or do you just all want to go together? Of course, have at it, but maybe splitting it will be easier. So in that sense, again, you might create, here's the group 1, reply to this one, here's the group 2, reply to this one. Or if you have Canvas, you can actually create group discussions where you assign students to groups and then they only see and enter into their group. They don't actually see the other group's replies. There's just a lot you can do with Canvas in that case if you want to. But it might just be easiest to have, okay, you don't need to separate it. Just say in your title, this is group 1, this is group 2, this is group 3, and so on. That makes it simple. But if you're having them reply individually, like, okay, like submit element 1, element 2, element 3 in different posts, you might have a starting point. Hey, group 1, do your 3 replies under this one, group 2 under that one. So again, depends on your preference in designing it. Now, in this case, it's just, hey, here's the same prompt and you're all doing it in different groups. In that case, you definitely want to make sure you have the setting of don't allow students to read anything else, any other responses until they post their own. So in that way, you don't have that confusion of like, well, I've already read theirs and so I'm going to use some of it. Like they can't see it unless they post their own. But another option is to actually have different prompts for each group. So you might have, okay, well, it's the same thing. You're doing these 3 things as a group, but group 1 has this concept from the term, group 2 has this concept from the term, group 3 has this concept, right? Or, this vocabulary word, or this novel, whatever the case may be, right? So it's doing the same thing, but with a different topic. So in that case, it doesn't really matter if they can see each other's replies because they're all focusing on something different. So that's another option as well. So again, individual discussion forums or maybe group discussion forums might appeal to you. And these are just some ways to approach the designing of them. But even if it's just like you're just going to do like one prompt, things that you really should consider adding there, again, are that minimum and maximum word count. Do you need to cite how many times do you need to cite? What type of citation do you need to do? You want to put in there, is it APA or MLA or Chicago, right? Those kind of things. And again, if you're going to have post and replies, when are the deadlines for these things? Because I don't think they should be in the same day. So that's just my ideas for discussion forums. If you have your own design ideas, feel free to share them in the comments below. And I'll see you next time with a new video.